Jerry lived a quiet life on the edge of a small town where everyone knew your name, and sometimes too much about your business. He was in his early 50s, with sun-worn skin and calloused hands from years of working on his ranch. His home wasn't fancy, but it was neat. A white fence ran along the front yard. The grass was always cut just right, and his cows had their own clean pens behind the house. Jerry didn't like drama. He preferred silence over shouting, peace over conflict, and cows over people. Most days you'd find him out in the pasture checking on his animals or fixing something on the old tractor. He liked things simple. Life was hard enough without making it harder by fighting with neighbors. But Jerry had one problem. Linda. Linda was the kind of person who thought she owned the whole neighborhood, even parts that clearly weren't hers. She lived 2 houses down and was what most folks called a Karen. She had rules for everything. If someone's trash can was out an hour before pickup time, Linda would call code enforcement. If a kid rode their bike across her lawn, Linda would show up at their door with a clipboard and a scowl. And worst of all, Linda was on the Homeowners Association board, the HOA. The HOA was supposed to be there to make sure the neighborhood looked nice. But under Linda's rule, it had become more like a group of busybodies with clipboards and authority issues. They wrote fines for tiny things, like if your mailbox was rusty or if your Christmas lights were still up after January 2nd. Jerry tried to keep his head down and stay out of trouble. He paid his fees, kept his yard tidy, and never gave anyone a reason to bother him. But Linda didn't care about that. She seemed to enjoy giving him a hard time. One time she called the HOA because Jerry's cows were too loud. Another time she said the smell from the pasture was offensive. And once she even sent a letter saying the way he parked his truck was blocking the view of the street sign. Jerry rolled his eyes every time he got one of those letters. He knew Linda was trying to get under his skin, but he refused to play her game. He figured if he stayed calm and polite, eventually she'd get bored and leave him alone. He was wrong. Then came the wedding. It started like any other week. Jerry had planned a short trip to visit his sister in another state. Nothing big, just a few days away to help her move into a new house. He made sure everything on the ranch was taken care of before he left. He fed the cows, filled the water troughs, and locked up the house tight. When he got back a few days later, everything looked normal at first. The house was still standing. The cows were safe, and nothing seemed broken. But as he walked through the yard, something felt off. There were weird marks in the grass, like tables had been sitting there. There were crushed flowers near the fence, bits of ribbon tangled in the bushes, and in the middle of the pasture there was a wooden dance floor still set up like someone had forgotten to take it down. Jerry blinked in confusion. "What the heck?" he muttered. He walked around the property, stunned at what he found. There were chairs lined up like for a ceremony, a long table with plates and cups still on it. Even fairy lights strung between the trees. It looked like a wedding had happened in his wee yard. That's when it hit him. Linda. Sure enough, when he went inside and checked his phone, there was a message waiting for him. "Hey, neighbor. Hope you don't mind. I borrowed your yard for my daughter's wedding while you were away. It was such a beautiful setting, and I figured you wouldn't mind helping out a friend. Thanks again. Signed, Linda." Jerry stared at the screen, jaw clenched. She had used his land, without asking, while he was gone, for a wedding. Not only that, but she had locked his cows in the pen so they wouldn't ruin the photos. That's why the pasture was empty when he returned. He hadn't let them out yet, and the gate had been closed tight. He couldn't believe it. He stormed over to Linda's house, ready to give her a piece of his mind. But when he knocked on the door, she answered with a smug smile. "Oh, hey, Jerry. Welcome back," she said cheerfully. "Did you see the setup? We had such a lovely time. Your yard is perfect for events." Jerry was speechless for a moment. You hosted a wedding in my yard," he finally managed to say. Well, yeah, she shrugged. You weren't using it. That's not the point. You didn't ask me. I figured you'd say yes, she said, still smiling. And look how great it turned out. Jerry wanted to scream, or laugh, or maybe both. Instead, he just said, "This isn't over," and stormed off. Over the next few days, Jerry told his friends what happened. Some laughed, some shook their heads, and others said, "That sounds exactly like Linda." Jerry decided to do the grown-up thing. He filed a formal complaint with the HOA, hoping they'd side with him. They didn't. Turns out, Linda wasn't just on the board, she was the president. And instead of getting in trouble, she actually got Jerry fined for not keeping his yard event ready. Whatever that meant. That's when Jerry realized something. Fighting fair didn't work with Linda. If he wanted justice, he was going to have to play dirty, and he had just the tools for the job: his cows. Jerry couldn't stop thinking about what Linda had done. He kept replaying it in his head like a bad movie. She used his yard watch for a wedding, without asking, and she even locked up his cows so they wouldn't ruin the pictures. That part really got to him. He loved those cows. They were more than just animals. They were his workers, his friends, and sometimes his only company. To know that someone would lock them up just to make a photo look better, that was crossing a line. Jerry wasn't a violent man. He didn't yell much. He didn't go around looking for fights. But this felt personal. Still, he tried to handle things the right way. He wrote a polite letter to the HOA board, explaining what happened. He attached photos of the mess left behind: broken chairs, trampled grass, and even one picture of the dance floor still standing in his pasture like some kind of joke. He asked two simple questions. Was it okay for a neighbor to use someone else's property for a big event without permission? Could the HOA please make sure this didn't happen again? That night, Jerry sat on his porch with a cold drink, hoping for justice. He didn't expect an apology, but at least a fair response. The next day, he got a reply from the HOA. It said, "Dear Mr. Smith, we understand your concerns. However, since the event took place while you were away, and no damage was reported to structures on your property, we do not believe any rules were broken. Thank you for your understanding." Jerry read it twice. Then he read it again. No rules. Broken? His land had been turned into a party zone. His cows locked up like prisoners. And the HOA was telling him nothing could be done? He threw the letter in the trash. That's when he realized something important. Linda wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was dangerous. She had power. She knew how to twist rules to her advantage. And worst of all, she thought she could walk all over people and get away with it. Jerry decided then and there that he wouldn't let this slide. But he also knew he had to be smart about it. If he went loud or angry, Linda would call the cops. The HOA would back her up, and he'd end up with another fine. So instead of yelling, he started watching. He watched Linda's house more closely. He noticed when she had guests, when she hosted backyard barbecues, when she set up tables and chairs in her yard. And most importantly, he noticed when she posted about it online. One evening, Jerry saw Linda post a new photo on Facebook. It showed the remains of the wedding setup. Bridesmaids in fancy dresses, laughing as they packed up decorations. A sign read, "Thank you for making our special day unforgettable." Underneath it, Linda wrote, "Such a magical day. Our dream came true thanks to this beautiful setting. Nature really is the best decorator." She even tagged the location, Jerry's house. Jerry stared at the screen. His face stayed calm, but inside, he was boiling. She was bragging about using his land. Worse yet, she was acting like it was a gift. He clicked share. He copied the link. He sent it to everyone he knew in the neighborhood. Friends, family, even strangers who lived nearby. And he added a simple message. Guess who didn't know their yard was being used for a wedding? People started responding fast. Some were angry. Others were confused. A few were just plain entertained. One neighbor replied, "Wait, that was your yard? I thought she rented a venue." Another wrote, "She did what? That's messed up." Someone even made a meme showing Linda, holding a cow by a leash with the caption, "I borrowed everything, including the livestock." Jerry started getting calls and texts. People wanted to know if it was true. Some offered to help. One guy even joked, "If she uses your yard again, can I borrow your cows to crash the party?" Jerry laughed out loud for the first time, in days. But then he stopped because an idea hit him. What if he actually did it? Linda had already treated his yard like it was hers. She had locked up his cows to keep them out of photos. She had used his land for a big event without asking. So maybe, just maybe, it was time to return the favor. Jerry started planning. He watched Linda's schedule. He saw that she was hosting another party soon, a small backyard cookout for her book club. Nothing huge, but enough people to set up chairs, bring food, and take pictures. Perfect. On the day of the party, Jerry waited until Linda had everything set up. Tables, umbrellas, grills, even little flags hanging from the trees. Then he walked to the pasture. He looked at his cows. They looked back. He opened the gate. Just like that. The cows sniffed the air. Then they started walking, slowly at first, then faster. One by one, they wandered out of the pen and toward the smell of grilled meat and fresh lemonade. Jerry stood back and watched. He didn't push them. He didn't shout. He just gave them freedom. And freedom, as it turned out, smelled like Linda's. Potato salad. By the time Linda realized what was happening, it was too late. One cow stepped onto the picnic blanket. Another knocked over a cooler. A third started nibbling on the tablecloth. Guests screamed. Someone dropped a plate. Linda ran outside, arms flailing. "What are these cows doing here?" She turned to Jerry's house. He was sitting on his porch, now drinking coffee like nothing had happened. "You should close your gate," he said calmly. Linda glared at him. "You did this." Jerry sipped his coffee. "Did what?" "This is harassment." "Nope," he said. "This is nature." Linda stormed off to try to shoo the cows away. But cows don't listen to yelling, especially not from a woman in designer sandals. Eventually, the cows wandered back to the pasture. The party was ruined. Half the food was gone. Linda's white pants had cow poop on them. Later that night, Jerry checked his phone again. There was a video online, titled, "HOA Karen hosted a wedding in my yard, so I let my cows crash the party." It showed everything. Linda screaming, the cows eating snacks, the chaos. It was already getting views. Jerry smiled. For the first time in weeks, he felt peace, and, somewhere in the distance, his cows mooed in agreement. Jerry had always believed in doing things the right way. He paid his bills on time. He kept his grass short. He even waved at neighbors when they passed by. But Linda, she didn't care about rules unless they served her. She used Jerry's yard for a wedding without asking. She locked up his cows so they wouldn't spoil the photos. And worst of all, she got away with it, thanks to her power trip on the HOA board. Jerry tried being polite. He filed a complaint. He asked for fairness. But the HOA just ignored him and told him nothing was wrong. That's when he realized something. Sometimes you have to fight back your own way. And Jerry had just the team for the job, his cows. The plan after. Linda ruined his pasture. With her fake perfect wedding setup, Jerry started watching her more closely. He wanted to know her schedule, her habits, when she hosted events, who came over, what kind of food she liked to serve. Why? Because if she could use his land without permission, then maybe just maybe, his cows could return the favor. He waited for the perfect moment. Not too big, not too small. Just the right party where Linda would be proud, dressed nicely, showing off her backyard like it was some kind of luxury resort. A few weeks after the wedding, that moment came. Linda was hosting another event. This time it wasn't a wedding. It was a book club cookout. Nothing fancy, but enough people to set up tables, bring food, and take pictures. Exactly what Jerry needed. Showtime. The day of the party, Jerry watched from his porch as Linda and her friends arrived. They carried coolers, baskets, and drinks. One guy brought a portable grill. Another brought a speaker and started playing soft jazz. They were serious about this book club thing. By mid-afternoon, the backyard looked like a scene from a lifestyle magazine. There were white tablecloths, fresh flowers, and even tiny flags, hanging between the trees. Linda stood in the middle of it all, smiling like a queen surveying her kingdom. Jerry sipped his coffee and smiled, too. He walked out to the pasture. The cows looked at him like they knew something was up. He opened the gate. Just like that. At first the cows didn't move. They sniffed the air. Then slowly, one by one, they stepped out into the open. They smelled something good. Food, grilled meat, fresh fruit salad, potato chips, and most importantly, Linda's lemonade. Chaos. Unleashed. It started with one cow walking past the fence, then 2, then 5, then 10. Before long, the whole herd was heading toward Linda's backyard like they'd been invited. Linda was in the middle of serving grilled chicken when she heard a loud moo behind her. She turned around, her eyes went wide. Wait, are those cows? One cow stepped onto the picnic blanket and started sniffing a plate of sandwiches. Another knocked over a cooler full of soda dough. A third grabbed a paper napkin with its tongue and started chewing. Guests screamed. Someone dropped their drink. A woman in high heels tried to run and almost fell. Linda ran toward the gate. "Get out! Get out of here!" she shouted, waving her arms like a mad woman. But cows don't care about yelling, especially not from someone wearing designer sunglasses and flip-flops. One cow walked right through the buffet table, knocking over plates and sending potato salad flying. Another bumped into the speaker, knocking it into a bowl of punch, and the biggest cow of them all decided the shade under the umbrella was the perfect place to sit down, right on top of Linda's favorite lawn chair. There was silence for a second. Then the chair made a loud crunch. Linda gasped. "No! No, no, no!" She ran over and tried to push the cow off, but it just mooed lazily and shifted its weight. By now, the party was completely ruined. Half the food was gone. Most of the guests had left. One man was trying to wipe cow droppings off his shoes with a napkin. Linda turned toward Jerry's house. He was sitting on his porch again, still drinking coffee, like nothing had happened. "You did this!" she yelled. Jerry blinked. "Did what? This is harassment." "Nope," he said calmly. "This is nature." Linda stomped toward him, red-faced. "You let your cows loose on purpose." Jerry leaned back in his chair. "Cows are free animals. I just gave them space." "You're going to pay for this." "For what?" Jerry asked. "Your chair? Your food? Or maybe for using my yard? Without asking?" Linda stopped. She had no answer, so she just stormed back to her house, muttering something about calling the HOA. Viral drama later that night, Jerry checked his phone. There was a new video online, titled, "HOA Karen hosted a wedding in my yard, so I let my cows crash the party." It showed everything. Linda screaming, the cows eating snacks, people running in panic, someone falling over a plate, even the sound of the chair breaking under the cow. The video already had hundreds of views. Jerry clicked share, Then he added a comment. Turns out, cows really love potato salad. Within hours, the video exploded. It spread across Reddit like wildfire. On r entitled people, users loved it. This is the best revenge I've ever seen. Karen finally met her match. I'm crying laughing. That cow took down her ego harder than any lawyer could. On AR Funny, people made memes. One showed Linda holding a sign that read, "Welcome to my book club, featuring live entertainment." Another meme showed a cow in sunglasses, standing next to a broken chair with the caption, HOA meeting, dismissed. Soon, local news stations picked up the story. Reporters called Jerry, asking for interviews. One reporter asked, "Did you plan this?" Jerry shrugged. "I just opened the gate." Another asked, "Do you feel bad about what happened?" Jerry thought for a second. "Nope. She used my yard without asking. I figured it was only fair her party had a little natural scenery, too." Backlash and bragging Linda tried to save face. She posted on Facebook later that night, "Some idiot let their cows run wild today and ruined our peaceful book club gathering. Please keep your animals contained. We live in a civilized neighborhood." But instead of support, she got comments like, "Isn't this the same yard you used for your daughter's wedding without asking? Sounds like karma. Maybe don't host parties on other people's property." Even her own friends started questioning her. One wrote, "Wait, you used Jerry's yard for a wedding and didn't tell him?" Another replied, "Yeah, that sounds like a problem you caused yourself." Linda deleted the post an hour later, but the damage was done. The video kept spreading. People loved Jerry's calm, quiet revenge. And somewhere out in the pasture, the cows seemed to know they had become local legends. They mooed proudly, as if to say, "We did good." When Jerry opened his eyes the next morning, he had no idea that his life was about to change. He got up like any other day, put on his boots, made coffee, stepped outside to check on the cows. Everything looked normal. The sun was rising. Birds were chirping. The cows were chewing lazily near the fence, but behind him on his phone, something huge was already happening. The video that broke the internet late. The night before, a neighbor had posted a video online titled, "HA. Karen hosted a wedding in my yard, so I let my cows crash the party." It showed everything from start to finish. Linda's book club cookout turning into total chaos. A cow knocking over a cooler. Another one munching on potato salad. Someone screaming as another mooed loudly beside them. There was even footage of Linda chasing a cow in flip-flops, yelling at the top of her lungs. And it wasn't just funny. It was perfect revenge. People loved it. By the time Jerry checked his phone after breakfast, the video had already hit 50,000 views. Within an hour, it jumped to 200,000. By lunchtime, it was trending on Reddit's r entitled people. Soon, it spread to Twitter, Facebook, and even TikTok. Jerry stared at his screen, shocked. "I didn't think anyone would care," he muttered. His neighbor Tom called him. "You gotta see this, buddy." "What is it?" Jerry asked. "You're famous." "Watrater." Reddit explodes. On Reddit, the post was blowing up. Hundreds of comments poured in every minute. One user wrote, "This is the best thing I've seen all week. That Karen used his yard for a wedding without asking, and now his cows crashed. Her party? This is poetic justice." Another added, "I can't stop laughing. That cow sitting on her chair was the final boss fight." Someone made a meme showing Linda standing in front of a sign that said, "Welcome to my book club, featuring live entertainment by local wildlife." Another meme showed a cow wearing sunglasses and holding a clipboard with the caption, "HOA board meeting dismissed." Even bigger subreddits started sharing it. R Funny posted it. R. That's hilarious shared it. R. Justice porn gave it gold. And then came the big one. R. Public freakout. That's when things really took off. Suddenly, people across the country were watching. Linda scream at cows. They weren't just laughing, they were cheering. For Jerry. News crews. Show up later that afternoon, Jerry heard a car pull up. He looked out his window. There was a van parked outside his house. It had a TV station logo on the side. Reporters stepped out with cameras and microphones. Jerry groaned. "Nope," he muttered. "Not today." But they knocked anyway. He opened the door slowly. "Mr. Smith?" one of them asked. "We're from Channel 7 News. We'd love to talk to you about what happened yesterday." Jerry blinked. "You mean the cows?" "Yes. Your story has gone viral." Jerry sighed. "All right, but only 5 minutes." Inside, the reporter asked questions while the camera rolled. "So did you plan this?" she asked. Jerry shook his head. "Nope. Just opened the gate. They did the rest." "Did you feel angry when Linda used your yard for a wedding without asking?" Jerry leaned back in his chair. "Wouldn't you be? And how do you feel seeing your story go? Viral?" He smiled for the first time. "Feels good knowing folks understand what it's like to get walked on." The reporter smiled too. "Well, thank you for talking to us." After they left, Jerry sat back down. He thought maybe that was the end of it. He was wrong. National attention. That same evening, Jerry got a call from a number he didn't recognize. "Hello? Mr. Smith?" the voice said. "This is ABC News. We saw your interview and we'd like to feature your story on our show tomorrow night." Jerry froze. ABC News? As in national TV? He rubbed his eyes. Sure." The next day, reporters from all over the country reached out. Some wanted interviews. Others wanted photos of the cows. One guy even offered to buy the pasture for a movie deal. Jerry kept saying no. "This isn't about money," he told one producer. "It's about fairness." Still, the attention kept growing. Linda tried to fight back. She posted again on Facebook. "Some people are making this look like a joke, but what happened was harassment. I'm considering legal action." But instead of sympathy, she got more backlash. Comments filled up fast. "Legal action? After using someone else's yard without permission? You should have thought about that before hosting a wedding where you didn't belong. Sounds like you finally met someone who doesn't care about your HOA power trip." One person even replied with a cow emoji and wrote, "Move along, Karen." Linda deleted the post within the hour. The final straw. 2 days later, Jerry got a letter in the mail. It was from the HOA. He opened it carefully. Inside was a short message. "Dear Mr. Smith, due to recent events and public concerns, we have launched an investigation into the unauthorized use of private property during the event held on your land. Further updates will follow." Jerry read it twice. Then he laughed out loud. The HOA was finally listening. Because now, everyone knew what Linda had done. And suddenly, she wasn't the powerful queen of the neighborhood anymore. She was just a woman who got outsmarted by a rancher and his cows. Life. After the chaos, Jerry's life didn't change much after that. He still got up early, fed the cows, fixed the fence. But now, sometimes neighbors waved extra long when they drove by. Kids stopped by to ask if they could see the cows. And once, a local baker brought him a pie with a note. "For the man who stood up to Karen. Enjoy." Jerry smiled. He sat on his porch, eating pie, watching the sunset. Behind him, the cows mooed happily. One of them wore a tiny cardboard tiara someone had left behind after the party. Jerry chuckled. "They still got the crown," he whispered. After the chaos of cows, cookouts, and Karen drama, things finally started to calm down. Jerry didn't become famous overnight, but he became a local legend. People in town knew his name now, not just as the quiet rancher who kept to himself, but as the guy who stood up to Linda in the best way possible. His cows? They were celebrities. One neighbor even made a sign that read, "Home of the famous party crashers," and stuck it near Jerry's fence. Jerry laughed when he saw it. He left it there. The HOA finally wakes up. About a week after the cow crash, Jerry got another letter from the HOA. He opened it carefully. This time, it wasn't a fine or a warning. It was a notice of investigation. The message said, "Dear Mr. Smith, we have reviewed recent events regarding the use of your property without permission. We are taking this matter seriously and will be speaking with all involved parties. Further action may follow." Jerry read it twice. Then he smiled. Finally, someone in charge was listening. He didn't expect much. After all, Linda had been on the board for years, but at least now people knew what she'd done, and the pressure was on. Soon after, the HOA held an emergency meeting. Linda tried to act like nothing happened. She showed up in her usual power outfit, clipboard in hand, ready to run the meeting. But something was different. People looked at her differently now. Neighbors who used to nod politely now avoided eye contact. Other board members asked questions they never would have before. One member asked, "How did Linda end up using Mr. Smith's land for a wedding?" Another added, "Did we approve this event? Because I don't remember seeing any paperwork." Linda tried to talk her way out of it. "I thought it was okay," she said. "I figured he wouldn't mind." That only made things worse. By the end of the meeting, she was asked to step down from the board. She refused at first, but then someone pulled out a printed copy of the viral video and placed it on the table. Silence filled the room. Linda grabbed her bag and stormed out. She never came back. Linda disappears. After that night, Linda became a ghost in the neighborhood. She stopped posting online. She didn't host any more parties. She didn't walk around giving people side eyes over lawn clippings. Even her car was rarely seen in the driveway. Some said she moved away. Others said she just stayed inside, avoiding everyone. Jerry didn't care either way. He was just glad the noise had gone quiet. Jerry's new normal life went back to normal for Jerry, but not exactly the same. He still woke up early, fed the cows, checked the fences. But now, sometimes neighbors would stop by. They brought cookies or fresh vegetables, or just wanted to say thanks. "You handled her better than any lawyer could," one neighbor told him. Jerry just nodded and smiled. One kid asked if he could see the cows. Jerry said yes. The boy ran up to the pasture and waved. One of the cows mooed back. The boy laughed. Jerry chuckled. "That one's the party animal," he said. Everyone laughed again. A legend is born over time. Stories about Jerry and his cows spread beyond the town. Local radio stations played jokes about it. One DJ called it the most peaceful revenge in history. Another said, "If you mess with a man and his cows, you deserve what you get." Even national shows mentioned it. One late-night host joked, "There's a new kind of superhero in America. His name is Jerry. His weapon? Cows." People loved it. And Jerry? He didn't mind being known for something good. He never asked for attention. But now that he had it, he handled it the way he always did, with quiet pride and a little bit of humor. The cow tiara. One day, a group of teenagers came by with a camera. "We're making a video," one said. "Can we take a picture of your cows?" Jerry shrugged. "Sure." As they walked into the pasture, one of them reached into their backpack and pulled out something small. It was a tiny tiara made of cardboard and glitter. They gently placed it on one of the cow's heads. The cow blinked, then slowly walked off, tiara still on its head. Jerry watched. He couldn't help but laugh. Later that day, a new meme appeared online. It showed the cow wearing the tiara. Caption: "Still got the crown." Jerry saw it. He saved it. He pinned it to his fridge, right next to a photo of the cows during the party. And every morning when he made coffee, he saw both, reminders of how far he'd come. From a quiet rancher who just wanted peace, to the man who taught a Karen a lesson she'd never forget, with cows. Final words. Months passed, spring turned to summer, summer to fall, and eventually, winter snow covered the fields. But Jerry's story lived on. Kids in school still talked about it. Neighbors still brought him treats, and every once in a while someone new would knock on his door. They'd ask, "So, is it true? Did you really let your cows crash a wedding party?" Jerry would smile. He'd say, "Not a wedding, a cookout, and I didn't let them. I just opened the gate." Then he'd wink. "Cows do the rest." And somewhere, behind him, in the distance, a cow mooed proudly, like it knew. It wasn't just livestock anymore, it was legend.